The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The date is January 13th, 2021, and the subject is the emotional aspect of the throat chakra in the sign of Capricorn. I am. Can you handle everything? Are you able to ask for help? Me. I think it was around April 2018 that I decided to rent a motorhome in Paris and head to Scotland. One of those absurd things I do without much thought. I toured Normandy and Brittany before crossing to England by ferry. That same night on the ship, crossing the English Channel, it started to snow. And when we got to England, it was so late that I decided to find a quiet place where I could park and spend the night. But the snow made it impossible. Plus, you can't stop just anywhere with a caravan. So I found a little town on the outskirts near Old Harry Rocks in Poole. But there were no lights, and it was impossible to see the road well, so I had to turn off all the internal lights of the caravan to be able to see the external ones better in detail, and then a horrible noise was heard. I stopped and went out to see what it was. When I touched the buttons to turn off the lights, I also touched the button that brings out the ladder, and because the streets were very narrow and rocky, I ripped it off and dragged it through some streets. I couldn't go on, so I went into a farm and waited. It snowed so badly that the water that keeps the heating circulating was released by the emergency system, so I lost my water and heat. Inside it was 5 degrees below zero, outside it was 8 below zero. The next day everything was covered in snow, and I tried to fix the stairs, wet, icy. It was maybe the first time in my life that I tried to do something mechanical. But I couldn't. I didn't understand anything. Cables, screwdriver. An awkward position, impossible to do with gloves. My wet pants were beginning to freeze. I no longer felt my extremities, and I had dirty everywhere inside, without having water to clean. I made myself a tea by melting snow and kept trying. I am stubborn. Me, I know. So I opted for the most Aryan solution possible, ripping off the ladder. I started ripping out all the wires, and then I thought, if they get wet, it'll short circuit and I will not only knock out the light and electricity to the caravan, but I will also electrocute myself. So I cut the wires without knowing the outcome and taped them to the underframe. I took an iron that was there and began to pry to start the ladder. Then a farmer appeared on a tractor telling me I couldn't be there, to which I replied, when I finish removing the ladder, I'll move on. The man got out and took a better piece of iron from his vehicle, and without saying anything to me, he began to pull the ladder until he was able to pull it off in minutes, when I had been there for an hour. There are things that you will need to accommodate below, and for that you need tools, he said. Where can I go? Then he told me that there was a store further down. I could ask there. I approached 60 meters below, and a couple of grandparents who attended the business asked me what I needed. So I said it. I need help. I couldn't leave there without fixing the rest of the things that were hanging, and I needed tools that I didn't have. The man looked at me fixedly and made me follow him. Behind the house there was a workshop, and then he gave me all the toolkit. In full confidence he told me, take the time you need. I did it like that. I left a note to the people at the farm, thanking them for letting me stay there until it was fixed. I fixed everything I could, and I was proud of it. I went back to the store, returned everything, and thanked them for the trust. I realized at that moment that I had spent a whole morning trying to solve a problem by force, when, with a simple, would you help me, she would have fixed it in 30 minutes. I am. Why is it so hard for you to ask for help? Me. I think it's pride. I get the impression that in life, individual success is highly rewarded. From a young age, we are told that we have to work hard to get what we want, that mom or dad will not always be there to do it for you, that the things you want, you must learn to get for yourself. At school, exams are individual, and almost always it is about competing for who has the best grade. Asking for help, culturally, is considered a weakness, a failure. It shows our incapacities. And I feel that it arouses frustration and shame. I am shame? Me. Yes. To say I can't. To show myself weak, vulnerable. I am words that are difficult to pronounce. Well, as we have seen at the beginning of our year, the key was to say I can. And perhaps it is necessary to understand that this affirmation also incorporates the concept I can ask for help. Me. Yes, it's true. I am. In the aspect of the Capricorn truth, the efforts to achieve the objectives, to achieve the goals, the tireless work to improve, the focus is so much on achieving what is expected through perseverance, that the focus is lost on recognizing that 4 hands are more useful than 2, that sometimes you can't hold everything yourself, and that results are optimized when there are more perspectives. The Capricorn attribute that lives in every human being is the belief that the important thing is to show that you can get there without anyone's help, to show that you can do it alone. And this is one of the big mistakes that is made in both the unconscious and the conscious world. Me. In what way? I am. Let's start with the unconscious. In human culture, this idea of success has been developed in different stages of existence. We go from the newest to the most ancestral. Today, people live in a world of exacerbated competition. It's all about being successful, competing, getting more results. In the business, political, economic, educational, cultural world, everything is linked to seeing who manages to go further or higher. The impulse is constantly promoted by the force of comparison with others instead of collaboration with others. This is based on the principle that you mentioned, personal success, which is exercised by the family, which in its eagerness to survive and find stability in all its aspects, forces its children to be better than the others, to strive to achieve better results. Me. You must manage to be your own boss and not an employee of anyone. For example, it's one of those ideas. Or, you must be a doctor or a lawyer, not an artist or musician that doesn't make a profit, which is another saying. I am. This stems from the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century. When most of the people left the countryside for the cities, food could no longer be obtained from the land, but rather by working in factories for 12, 14, or 16 hours a day. In exchange, you received money to live on. The better or more you worked, the more money. This made it clear that those who worked hard would obtain better results. It would give them economic freedom to create their own businesses. This is how the middle class arises. Something unthinkable before. Poor people with resources and economic freedom. Those who manage to have their own capitals and live in the city without dependence on the countryside were known since the Renaissance as citizens, which in Latin called them bourgeoisie, burgos meaning city. Me. That's why so many cities are called like this, boroughs. Hamburg, Strasbourg, St. Petersburg. The bourgeois were the producers of companies in the cities. I am. Workers who became rich like the old feudal lords. Thus we go back in time when most of the population lived in the countryside, and the only ones who lived in the cities were the princes, the feudal lords, the kings. In that period, success was not achieved by hard work and effort, but by battles, deaths, strategies, contacts, betrayals, theft, or inheritance. The people in general had to strive to survive, and to achieve it, it was not enough to have personal effort, but that of a whole group, a family. There the idea of clan was forged, in which no individual achieves anything without the help of the other. As you will see, it is the opposite vision of the industrial age. The 18th century brought the revolution that showed that everyone has opportunities to become feudal lords, something that until then was just a dream. This is how you can understand that clan, help, and community were synonymous with survival, oppression, and feudalism. When the first industrial revolution arrived, feudalism tried to continue with the system by taking the peasants to the factories. But the French Revolution changed this forever, giving the peasants the possibility to choose the fief and take control of liberties. Thus, the ideas of community and collective help became socio-cultural synonyms for defeat, control, enemies of personal success. Me. Now it makes more sense. I am. But let's go further back. The fiefs, princes, and kings sought this success, protected by the ideas of the ancient blue blood lineages chosen by the hand of God. For the upper classes, competition did exist outside the eyes of the common people. The struggle for power and divinity of the kings to feel close to God is born from the ancient traditions of looking for a king of the world, direct son of the God of heaven. A Judeo-Christian tradition contributed by the Semitic peoples, that is, all those that emerged from the Middle East. And because? Me. I guess because of the traditions of the Anunnaki. I am. That's right. It is in the Middle East where the gods of heaven descended and had children with the women of earth, and their children were special, had extraordinary abilities, and were called blue-blooded or heroes and heroines. Me. Like Hercules. I am. Exactly. Achilles, Odysseus, Hector, Persephone, Victoria for the Romans, or Nike for the Greeks, all children of heavenly gods with earth humans. From them come the ideas of those individuals of royal blood, capable of anything, all-powerful, imposing, who do not need anyone's help because they can do everything. But this does not come only from those gods, but before, in the most ancestral humans, there was the idea of the totem, a mythological being that had the attributes of animals and plants. Sorcerers and witches tried to incorporate these totems into their being to awaken unique abilities. And the stories spoke then of birdmen, werewolves, bearmen, snake women, buffalo women, spider women, and there was talk of the tree of life and knowledge. Me. Everyone wanted to be like them. I am. Everyone wanted to have the power of nature, to be omnipotent. Me. So, asking for help has always been synonymous with weakness in the human world. It's in our subconscious. I am. And here we have reached the concept that we should talk about. At one point, I told you that this idea is also rooted in the conscious world. All we have gone through so far has been the unconscious. But what happens when you start to wake up? The search for enlightenment begins. The search for other worlds to see who has the best explanations, answers, mastery, capabilities. Let's see who is right, who is more divine, more awake, more conscious, enlightened. Me. Yes, it's true, we hold this same idea on the plane of consciousness. I am. Well, by looking for the source of all things, you arrive at I am, and find an absolute truth. You are everything. And in that truth, consciousness loses itself in omnipotence, considering that a wise man does not ask, that the universe is not lost, that the cosmos does not need to become disordered, that the enlightened person is not obfuscated, that the balanced does not get excited, that the teacher does not learn, that God is not wrong. Me. But yeah, I am. Because the I am is a network composed of millions of I, a neural network that without interaction, without sharing, does not create thoughts, ideas, actions, evolution. They do not dream, they do not reason, they do not manifest. Help comes from the etymology ad, meaning towards, and iovare, to support, which in turn finds its origin in the Indo-European you, spelled Y-E-U, which means young, youthful, youth. In English, help arises from the Indo-European kelb, meaning to hold. The concept refers to supporting the young learner. The universe is a being in constant learning, in need of expanding its way of seeing the world. And without others, it is impossible to see other options. In the subconscious, we have registered both concepts. Help makes us survive, but at the same time we consider it a defeat in the face of personal success. Do you know how to correct this? Me, I do not. I am remembering that you do not exist as a person. The person is one of those tools that you use. The only thing that exists is the I am, and it lives in you, through you, because you are part of the one. And when you ask for help, you are asking yourself, another aspect of you with the ability to see that which you can't see. That's why you have 2 eyes and not 1, 2 hands and not 1, 2 feet and not 1, to remind you that balance is not achieved with just one aspect, but with sustenance, support and help of another. You would never have taken a first step without the concept of help. Help, it is the opportunity that your young being has to learn something new about yourself. Can you with everything? Me, yes, but not as an individual, but as the one that I am. My ego can't handle everything. It needs the help of many more. Alone, I would never have done anything I did, but all those who helped me and continue to help me are me. We are one. I am. Are you able to ask for help? Me. Now I am, more than ever. I recognize myself as the young person who has the will to learn, and everyone around me has something to teach me, just as I do the same with them. I am. So, you can tell me. Me. It's okay. Can you help me? I am. Take my hand.